Hey guys, well it appears NVIDIA is now setting up shop in the United States and building up a whole factory for NVIDIA processors in Arizona. Now, if you know anything about the AI industry or just the tech industry in general, you know a lot of different things are made overseas. iPhones, for example, those are made in China. A lot of processors are made in China and Taiwan. There's a lot of overseas manufacturing that goes on. We in America are definitely big consumers, but we don't necessarily make all that much when it comes down to technology. A lot of stuff is made and outsourced to China. NVIDIA, however, is taking a kind of an interesting step, and admittedly, they're doing this because, quite frankly, they have all the reason to, seeing as that there's a whole AI partnership that the US government has conjured up with NVIDIA and a bunch of other companies in order to make AI manufacturing and technology manufacturing happen in the US. But they're now moving to building a lot of their stuff in the United States, which is very, very interesting. So we're going to go ahead and cover it in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we're going to start off with this article by NVIDIA themselves. NVIDIA to manufacture American-made AI supercomputers in the United States for the first time. So they're starting production of the NVIDIA Blackwell chips in Arizona, and NVIDIA has now started to open some of their first United States factories. So NVIDIA is working with its manufacturing partners, those partners being, I think, the likes of TSMC, Foxconn, Wistron, Amkor, and Spill, which, when it comes down to the technology manufacturing game, those are some pretty big names, especially TSMC and Foxconn, because TSMC makes a lot of different processors. Like, I mean a lot of processors for all types of different companies. NVIDIA, AMD, they are a seriously, seriously big name. Foxconn is the people who make all the Apple products. They make Apple products, iPhones, they make the whole 9 yards, and they have insanely robust, insanely huge factories to get the job done. So they're partnering up with some pretty big names here in order to get this stuff done. So they're going to start manufacturing NVIDIA AI supercomputers entirely in the United States. Now, together with their manufacturing partners, the company has commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test NVIDIA Blackwell chips in Arizona and AI supercomputers in Texas. So the processors are now starting to be actually built at TSMC's chip plants in Phoenix, Arizona, and NVIDIA is building actual AI servers in Texas with Foxconn in Houston and Wistron in Dallas. So these companies that definitely do a lot of things overseas are now starting to move a lot of their operations over to the United States. Now, part of that's definitely because there's a lot of incentive to do so. Now, I'm not going to get in too much into politics, but there's definitely, our current administration wants things to be made here. That is their current outlook, especially with the tariffs that are going on recently and the actual genuine incentives that the government and the current administration have put into place with these tech companies to actually build things here, especially that giant AI partnership that the Trump administration put into effect earlier this year. So, admittedly, there's a lot of reason for them to move to the US. And it's interesting, though, because you wouldn't have really thought about Foxconn manufacturing things in Houston when they're mostly a Chinese-based company. But no, they have moved here, especially because, quite honestly, they have all the reason to do so right now. It would be actually dumb for them not to move here, especially considering things like tariffs. So, honestly, this was probably a really good move on NVIDIA's part to move a lot of their manufacturing to the US because, honestly, they kind of need to. So, the Blackwell chips and also the AI servers that NVIDIA makes are now starting production in the United States, with productions expected to ramp up in the next 12 to 15 months. Now, the AI chip and supercomputer supply chain is definitely complex and demands a lot of advanced manufacturing. And apparently they're also partnering with Amkor and Spill for packaging and testing operations in Arizona. So they partnered up with some seriously big names, and long story short, they're making all their stuff in the United States. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, long story short, This means that we could probably see a lot more AI development going on in the United States, especially by companies such as OpenAI, especially OpenAI. This is all kind of part of that big AI partnership that was announced by the Trump administration earlier this year with like Microsoft, OpenAI, NVIDIA, ARM, SoftBank, all those types. And quite honestly, this partnership was done with the explicit goal of adding a lot of AI computing resources and computing operations here in the United States, and especially in Texas, where they want to make a bunch of AI data centers. So we've now this is kind of the start of a self-propelling supply chain for AI that requires no overseas like investment or operation, which to a certain degree is actually genuinely really cool. This means we could definitely see companies like Anthropic or OpenAI or any of those companies start to make huge leaps in AI, especially because now they're going to have the supply chain right at their doorstep and they can just get stuff very fast. No shipping times, no tariffs, no nothing. It's all here in the US. So if an AI company now wants to buy a bunch of NVIDIA computers, well, they can just have it shipped from Dallas. And then chances are those companies probably operate either in Texas or in California, because that tends to be where a lot of these AI companies operate. They'll just get it shipped really fast. They'll come in on on a truck, they'll get it delivered, easy peasy, just like that. And then it just allows things to operate at a much larger scale without any overseas dealings, which honestly, in a world right now where tariffs are becoming a genuine prospect, especially on technology, is, something that no AI company wants to deal with, especially because, well, to be honest, AI companies eat up a lot of hardware, more than the average consumer, and definitely more than most actual, like, data center companies. AI technology is such a consumed thing. AI hardware for AI technology rather is such a consumed thing that honestly I would wager that AWS doesn't have to buy as much hardware as OpenAI does, especially because it takes so much processing power. It takes so much power in general. So quite honestly, the fact that some of the supply chain is moving to the US is definitely going to be an advantage for a lot of these AI companies, even ones that weren't named in that whole government-sponsored AI partnership thing. Even companies like, XAI or Anthropic or whoever else that operates in the US is going to get some genuine benefit out of this, as well as research institutions and maybe even our own government. There's definitely some genuine use that's going to come out of this, and it means we're going to start seeing much more rapid-paced evolution and expansion of the overall AI landscape, especially here in the United States, which is going to be interesting. So that is about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this. I think this is actually pretty cool. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, take care, guys, and remember to stay safe out there.